Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Hey there, thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. I know there are many, many podcasts you could choose from, so that you choose us is not a small thing. Thank you. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. Thanks, as always, for your written reviews at Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I want to tell you about my friend in Cincinnati named John Ruhlman. Now, he runs a company called U.S. Medical Plan. And John has been a sponsor of mine and a friend of mine for a long while. And he has gotten calls from this audience, including calls from my own family, calls from colleagues and friends of mine who have shopped with him their current health insurance plan. And he has saved friends and family thousands of dollars, literally. Let me give you a for example. I have a friend who bought private health insurance for his family. His daughter had some special health needs that cost him quite a bit of money a month to get premiums covered for all of them. John found him identical coverage and saved him $2,000 a month. That's jaw-dropping money. My parents called John for a supplemental health insurance plan for their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. Now, every nickel is precious, particularly when you're sitting on an income that you've got to count on for the rest of your days and you're counting your change. $400 is a lot of money. All right, so that's what John can do for you. Or maybe if you have no health insurance at all and you think it's too expensive, I can't afford it right now. He has over 100 different private health insurance companies all over the country that he shops and compares so that he gets you the best rates and never cheats you on coverage, by the way. It doesn't mean it's some scant coverage. Great rates, great coverage. Let John and his team at usmedicalplan.com go to work for you today. You can also call 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321, usmedicalplan.com. Well, good morning, folks. Welcome in on this very busy Friday edition of the Stigall Show. Glad to have you here. It's also Open Line Friday, so you're always welcome to jump in the conversation pool at 855-STIGALL, 855-784-4255. And, of course, the big news heading into the evening for us, or beginning the day, Israel time, was a massive strike on Tehran's nuclear program, and it has taken out some big boys in the government of Iran. Reporting from the New York Times here this morning that Israel's strikes on Iran delivered a seismic blow to Iran's chain of command, with Iranian officials and media reports saying at least 3 of their top generals, including both the overall military commander and the leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, have been killed. Whoa. And, of course, this is all to strike directly at their nuclear facilities, something that Donald Trump has been trying very, very hard to get them to come to the table and agree to stop doing, developing a nuclear weapon. You're dealing with a country that has been openly pledging for their, in certainly recent history, that they will wipe Israel off the map. And to do that, they want a nuclear weapon to get it done. Israel has consistently said, that's not going to happen. You're not allowed to have a nuclear weapon to wipe us off the map. We're not going to let that happen. Trump and other world leaders have been asking Iran, knock it off with your nuclear development. Let's make a deal here. Didn't happen. Of course, Obama and Biden came along and actually emboldened them, gave them cash, and basically let them proceed for all intents and purposes. I would argue that we're here today. Israel is now up against it with no choice but to take on Iran themselves, because Biden and Obama before him, and really the one and the same, spent the better part of the last 20 years enabling Iran. Trump tried to come in and interrupt things for a bit. I got a note from a guy yesterday. He was all snarky. He said, Stigall, I'm getting a little tired of your pep rally for Trump all the time. I mean, I voted for Trump, but you're just a sycophant. And he was particularly angry at Trump's Middle East trip a while back. And I've heard from some conservatives who say it was unseemly what Trump was doing in Qatar and what he's doing in Saudi Arabia and Syria and talking to these despots and these rotten guys, and how dare he sit down and talk with these guys. And you know something? I'm going to tell you right now that I believe that particular trip, as well as the Abraham Accords that he tried to lock up in his first term, and I think are well underway now, the stability in that region more or less, that will exist in the on the backside of this attack is going to be to Donald Trump's credit. Said another way, if Israel decided to launch... let me ask it this way. Fast Eddie, how would you feel about Israel striking Iran today if Cacklebritches had won the presidency and Tampon Tim Walz was the vice president sitting at her side today? How would you feel about Israel striking Iran right now?
I would feel like this is the official start to World War III. I feel like our time would be up.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly what you should feel, and you're exactly right to feel that way. Iran would say, okay, saddle up, and all of their allies in the Middle East would say, saddle up, we're going to take on Israel and take them out. Why won't Iran, Fast Eddie, why won't Iran, they'll strike back with some drones, and they did overnight. They did some little drone stuff, fine. And I hate to predict anything because war is hell and you can't predict war, but why, Eddie, do you think Iran is not going to go great guns a-blazing to try to mow down Iran?
So I think that they have friends in Russia and China and North Korea, obviously, but they don't really have as many friends as they did before in the Middle East. So it's probably not the best move.
You think a hair on the head of any American military installation or man or woman serving over there will be harmed? By Iran?
I don't think so, no.
I don't either, because Daddy's home. And so for those of you that were critical of that Middle East swing, I maintain that Middle East swing is probably going to have a huge impact on what we're watching at this very hour. I think Trump's dealings with the Saudis, Trump's dealings with the Syrians, Trump's dealings with the Qataris, I think that is all coming now home to roost in a big way, knowing full well Trump always knew this was coming. In fact, it was even kind of flirted with. We had stories on my desk yesterday that this was likely coming. The White House knew. Israel didn't do this without the White House's knowledge. No doubt about it. I don't know if you want to say blessing, but certainly the White House had knowledge. Trump was already kind of winking at it yesterday, and Trump just issued a statement on Truth Social about 10 minutes ago, and here's what he said. I gave Iran a chance. And chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest of words, just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told. That the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. Now they're dead. And it will only get worse. There has already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even bigger and more brutal, to come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late. God bless you all. That is the statement just about 10 minutes ago issued by Donald Trump on Truth Social. As for Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, he said this as this attack was launched last night. Tonight, Iran took unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in strikes against Iran, and our troop priority is protecting American forces in the region. Israel advised us that they believe this action was necessary for its self-defense. President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target U.S. interests or personnel. So that's Rubio last night. You just heard what I read about Trump today. And as I say yet again, Iran was put on notice some time ago. They're officially put on notice now. You better come to the table and you better deal and end this quick. From the Wall Street Journal, Israel attacks Iran's nuclear facilities, their supreme leader vowing to retaliate. 200 fighter jets wrapped up the first wave of the attack before dawn on Friday. Iran's supreme leader said Israel should expect severe punishment for the attacks. Now, of course, we're going to continue to watch this, folks. We have some live feed and whatnot, and we will continue to tap into that. If there's stuff that breaks throughout the course of the show, I'm committed to bringing it to you as best that I can. The wave of strikes coming just days before the special envoy to the United States, Steve Witkoff, was to meet with his Iranian counterparts for a sixth round of nuclear talks. The United States has said Iran must give up the ability to enrich uranium needed to build a bomb. Iran has refused and has left the talks at an impasse. Netanyahu said this military operation would last as many days as it takes. Israel said it started shooting down drones launched by Iran in retaliation overnight. So, this is ongoing, it is sustained, and worst of all, Fast Eddie, this comes at a terrible time for the No Kings movement. Damn it. Here you take all the good time to plan these counter-protests for Trump's military parade, and now look at this. Netanyahu's gone and screwed everything up. And now all the media is consumed with Iran being attacked by Israel this morning.
And they just dropped off the bricks down at the art museum. Chris, come on.
You know, you go to all the trouble to plan a big riot, and look what happens. Now maybe nobody's even going to be paying attention to it. Of course, Trump, this is also fitting. It's good timing for Trump's military parade, too. I think Saturday, Trump celebrating a birthday, rolling out the military hardware down proverbial Main Street, kind of reminding Iran what we've got in the arsenal there. I don't mind that right now, right?
That's not bad.
Yeah. Fine with me. Oh, and to top it all off, the Ninth Circuit came in last night. There was a lower court judge who told Gavin Newsom that he could take back control of the National Guard from Trump, that Trump didn't have the authority to send the National Guard into L.A. to control it. And a judge, a left-wing judge, no secret, tried to stop that. Ninth Circuit came in yesterday, issued a stay, and said little Gavin's got to stand down. Newsom, he issues a statement last night like he's Iran's supreme leader. The National Guard is now back under my command, and Donald Trump must be... Is there anything worse than watching a limp-wristed pansy try to play tough guy in a costume? He's watched too many movies in Southern California. The military is back under my command. Yeah, your command, please. You have no command. Gavin Newsom. So another loss for Gavin as the stay was issued. The Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces, the National Guard here at home, the military parade going through Washington, D.C., and Iran quaking in its boots. Not at all ready to cross Donald Trump. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, at this critical time in history, bottom line, whether it's the instability at home or the instability in the Middle East, it is damn good to know we have a serious, tough, decisive, but unpredictable, and that's a good thing here, unpredictable leader in Donald Trump. Not that predictable old husk or that flaccid, silly, ridiculous person we were pretending was a vice president for a while. Can you imagine where we'd be today had that happened? Oh, quick break on the Stigall Show. Yeah, we're in the midst of a culture war here at home. Now a literal war, it appears, has busted out overseas between Israel and Iran, and it's serious business. The country's at a crossroads, the globe is at a crossroads, and aren't we glad, I say again, that Donald Trump's hand is on the tiller? Can there be any dispute about, even those of you who have sent me these nasty grams in the last week, you're just a sycophant, you're just a cheerleader. Yeah, I am. I am a cheerleader for Donald Trump. I make no apologies for that. In fact, I've never been a bigger, more enthusiastic backer of Donald Trump's than I am right now. And I ask you again, if people are taking hammers to curbs, breaking off chunks of concrete and throwing them through windshields from overpasses in riots in your city, who do you want as president of the United States, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? Serious question. It's that easy, and I want you to defend your position right now if your answer is Kamala Harris. I dare you. I dare you to make the case to me that what we're watching in the streets of our major American cities or right now between Israel and Iran, I defy you to make the case to me right now that the Democrat Party has a better alternative anywhere, by the way, not just that ridiculous person we were pretending was a vice president who had no business running for president, not just her. How about that entire bunch? Any one of them. Pick any one of these losers. That stupid Padilla guy nobody had heard of. Till he tries to storm into a Kristi Noem meeting. I'll get into that in a minute, too. Him? How about these Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and Lunkhead there that came to Capitol Hill last night? J.B. Pritzker. I heard Waters say something I got to give credit to Waters, people. what did they call him? JB Baby Back or something? JB Baby? It was a very funny, basically having fun with the fact that he's gigantic. He could really use PhD weight loss, Pastetti. JB Pritzker's a very, very rotund man. They say he's going to run for president. I don't know that his health can stand it. Have we had a fat president like that since Taft?
Not since Taft. Not like that, no.
Like, I think Taft famously got stuck in a bathtub in the White House. If
he did.
My history, yeah, he got stuck in a, right?
And then they had to have a custom one built that literally was like the size of 4 men. Yeah,
that's exactly that. JB Pritzker, you can't have that anymore. You just can't. In the Maha movement, you can't have a guy. He needs my PhD weight loss. PhDweightloss.com. Now, so then there's Gretchen Whitmer, who was painted up. She looked something like a marionette yesterday. Boy, she looked like 10 miles of bad road. I don't know if you saw her, the governor, Kathy Hochul of New York. Woo. And then Tampon Tim. What a triad, those three. Any one of those three? President of the United States? And then Governor Goodhair. Him? You think that guy would make a great commander-in-chief right now? In the midst of all this chaos? They're an unserious party. They're fools. There's but one person for this time in history as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, I would include not just the Democrats, but the Republicans in that too. Now, I think the bench has gotten a lot deeper and better under Donald Trump's leadership. I think he has a lot of quality people around him. But your standard run-of-the-mill, rank-and-file member of Congress right now, are there many standout? I mean, look, there are some good ones in the cabinet. It has improved dramatically, but they're following Donald Trump's lead. For instance, look at Marco Rubio. That guy, I probably wouldn't have taken a second look at him a few years ago, to be perfectly honest, for this time in history. I think he's an entirely different dude now. I think Donald Trump has dragged him to a new place, and I really like the cut of Marco Rubio's jib. J.D. Vance, of course, goes without saying as well. So we've got a bench. Democrats right now, at this time, they're performance actors. And I have some of it. I'm going to get into it coming up. 855 Stigall's our number if you want to get in here. Glad to have you along today. All right, let's get to this moron Padilla yesterday. Could you have named, and I'm sincere about this, I could not have. If someone had held a gun to your head and said, I want you to name right now United States Senators from California, there are 2 of them, go. Fast Eddie, could you have done it before yesterday? Sincere question. Could you have named 2 United States Senators from California until yesterday?
I actually could have, just because I remember this Padilla guy very well. He's just as...
And the other?
Adam Schiff, of course.
That's right.
Yeah, he's the worst.
That's right. Adam Schiff, who's made a name for himself, and Padilla, who knew that the only way to actually get any kind of street cred is to do what Schiff has done for so long. Just be a gnat, a pest, a nonsensical fool. Make a name for yourself somehow, and that's what... So Padilla just took from the handbook the Democrat playbook of, well, we're not doing anything meaningful. Nobody really supports our agenda, so the only thing that they can do, this is Boss Hogg stuff. This is AOC stuff. This is all about them. All of these Democrats they're out trying to make a name for themselves. Cory Booker and the stupid floor speech, Hakeem Jeffries and the sing-along, and it's stunting. They're all stunting. They're like one-man, traveling comics or something. They're all trying to raise money. Remember, the key for the Democrats right now is to control the purse strings. They don't have an electoral following. Nobody supports their agenda. Nobody backs them as a party. They're wandering in the desert, and so all they can do is try to be the next big star. They're all auditioning right now. They need that 4 panels of judges. They need like Reba and Snoop all sitting there with the buzzer. That's what they need. Democrats Got Talent is what we're watching, Fast Eddie. That's what this is. They're all auditioning for a show. Wouldn't that be... I'd watch that.
Yeah, I got to say, though, I wanted to see a little bit more from the Kenyatta-David Hogg thing. So as long as we kind of start there and only add, like Padilla can be a part of it now. But yeah, so we can buzz them through, and or you do like The Voice, you hit the button and your whole chair turns around. It's like, I'm in!
Who would be the best judges for that show? Who do you think, like, Democrats Got Talent, they all come out and they do their best performance art. Like, who would be the best judges, do you think? Should those be Republican judges, like Trump cabinet officials? Who would be? I'd like to have Trump be a part of that, actually. I think kind of an Apprentice-style show.
He'd be in.
I like that. Yeah. Oh, Trump would do it. He'd love it. I think he finds it kind of entertaining, by the way. So this guy, Padilla, who nobody's heard of and you couldn't have named until yesterday. You couldn't have. I couldn't have. And I paid to do this. He storms into a Kristi Noem briefing. Now, here's the thing, folks. If you tried to storm into a briefing of a cabinet official today, good luck. Never mind if you didn't identify yourself. And I love, this is how you know that these people think they're really something special, because he posts yesterday on social media, imagine me, a United States Senator, of course he puts in all caps, a United States Senator. If they'll treat a United States Senator that way, imagine how they'd treat you, lowly scum, is basically what his statement said. They think they're so far superior. They're so above you and me. I'm a United States Senator. Yeah, you're actually an elected representative of people. Us, we're technically your boss. If they'll treat a United States Senator this way. They think that title, and they get a little card with the embossing on it, the raised seal. Oh, they get off on that. They got a staff, and people drive them around, and they're called senator. Sometimes they get security detail. I tell you, the trappings of these offices, boy, does it get into their heads. It doesn't take long. They think they're big shots. And, of course, when you're wandering in the desert like the Democrats are, you got to get some kind of traction and name ID. Nobody knew who this guy was, so he says, okay, I got an opportunity here. Kristi Noem is having a briefing. I'm going to storm in there. And he's in street clothes. He's not even in a suit, which, you know. Actually, what do you think? If John Fetterman stormed in there as a Democrat senator, not that he would, because he's actually got more common sense than that, Fetterman actually would probably get away with this, because most people know who he is, at least. You can't miss him. Big bald guy in a hoodie. I think everybody understands who Fetterman is on sight. But nobody knows who Padilla is. He's in street clothes. So he comes storming in there, and it's you can tell. You can tell it's all performative, because he's doing that 1960s Captain Kirk delivery. Must get to secretary. Must tell. I'm telling you, Ed, this is one of those things. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw things at my television last night as I was watching this idiot. It's so stupid. He knew what was going to happen. He knew storming in there unidentified in plain clothes wasn't going to work. And how do you know that's true? Because he brought along a little staffer who had his cell phone camera in tow the whole time, who never once identified the senator, never told the security around Kristi Noem who the hell he was. They let him be dragged out of the thing and then cuffed before they ever really identified who the hell he was. I'm a United States Senator. Oh, who knew that? I guarantee you 9 out of 10 Americans, and probably many of them in California, couldn't name him if I held up his picture today. I guarantee it, Ed. You think I'm wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong, but what? I don't understand. Like, if you and I know this, and this never works, this performance crap that they always do, why do it? Why even do it?
Because I said earlier, fundraising. This is not for... this is not to gain credibility nationwide. This is to gain credibility among the emotional idiots that vote for this. And more importantly, donate to this. Remember, you got the Walmart heiress. She took out a full-page ad this week for the No Kings rally. This is a billionaire, this woman. And she's spending billions of dollars to back idiots like this. Now, this guy knows it, so he goes in with his Captain Kirk, must speak to secretary, must get to... Idiots like this Walton woman say, oh, I like that. How much money do you need, Senator Padilla? That's all he cares about. He doesn't care whether he wins anything. He's in California, so he'll be a senator as long as he wants. So he gets his little cell phone video from his staffer of him being cuffed. All right. Now, even over at CNN, even they, who would do anything they could to justify this, even they can't really explain this away. 24/72. Listen to one of Jim Comey's former patsies, Josh Campbell, who's now a CNN correspondent, even he's like, yeah, this is probably if you're Padilla, you should have expected this.
It's easy to think about this as one incident, but actually from a law enforcement perspective, we're really looking at 3 separate incidents that happened within a short period of time. First, you have the DHS secretary who is addressing the press. This was not a Q&A period, and she's interrupted. She's interrupted by someone who is speaking very loudly, and so her security detail confronts what we obviously now know to be the senator, and at that point, he is now going to be escorted out. You can't interrupt something like that that's already in progress without having those consequences. But the second incident, in my view, happens.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, so again, there's a CNN guy and a Comey guy going, you can't actually do that. You can't storm into a cabinet secretary's event. Like, doesn't even matter if you're a senator. You can't do that. Never mind, you're somebody that's not even identified. Well, right on cue. Now, here's how you also know it's performance art. Data Republican went to work on this. She started looking at the social media accounts of all these idiot Democrats who, what did they do? Remember the last time we played for you the montage? I don't remember what the subject was exactly, and it doesn't matter because the point is the same. Democrats on social media immediately go into posting mode. So they've got the cell phone video. It's almost like the staffer, like they send Padilla in, as the ringer. They got to get the cell phone video. The staffer, it's almost like, dee, dee, dee. You can almost see the cartoon telegraph beaming to, it's like the old switchboard operator or something. You see, you can just see the lines of communication coursing through the Democrat Party. And they immediately all starting to say, they're all going to social media at the same time. I can't believe the way Donald Trump's Gestapo manhandled the good Senator Padilla. One after another, the drama, the fainting couch crap, every one of them. Pocahontas said, oh, no, you can't. Hakeem Jeffries, how dare you? Nobody believes it. And by the way to step on your No Kings rally. And then Israel does what they do last night. It's just, they're all over the place. And I say again, I just asked this on social media. Look at this. They're not establishing anything but more chaos. Just total chaos in an opposition to what, supposedly? The very reason Donald Trump won the election in the first place, securing our border, deporting illegals. That's what these people are causing total chaos and making fools of themselves over. Securing our border and deporting illegal aliens. For this, they have decided to try to cause the country to plunge into total incivility and instability and chaos and nonsense. And they expect to do what exactly with that? Well, fundraise from idiot people like the Walton family who cut checks to it, I guess, because American voters don't support it at the polls. And then, of course, Israel's come along and stepped on little Padilla's party and the No Kings party. Damn it, Israel. So inconsiderate. More in a minute. All right, to the phones in Los Angeles. Let's talk to Scott. How are things out there, Scott? Has it calmed down a little bit? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Chris. It's slowly calming down, but I wanted to call in and make a point. The reason the Democrats didn't want Elon Musk into the Treasury Department is because him and his team uncovered the money trail in California. And the guy that the FBI arrested was a Teamster Local 399 guy, the guy dropping the masks off. And I think just underneath the surface out here is a massive RICO case. When I saw Padilla in the press conference with Noam, that guy wasn't mad. That guy looked afraid. He looked scared. And I think that what's about to be uncovered is Shira and the SEIU are aiding and abetting the destruction of downtown. And I think that's why, and I think the Democrats know it nationally. That's why they came out so hard yesterday in defending Padilla. But, I hope the FBI interrogates that guy right, because I think that's the money trail's there, I guarantee you.
You know, Scott, I'm running a sale this week on the Harump Society for Father's Day, and I don't know if people have taken advantage of it yet. I hope that you do. Many have. But, Scott, you're the kind of guy. That observation is a great one, and I would love to make you an honorary member of the Harump Society. If I could collect your email and send it to you 3 times a week, I'd be honored to have you in the mix. Do you mind?
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds so good, Chris.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for listening in Los Angeles. That is an astute point. That's the kind of people that hang out at the Harump Society, by the way. Go to chrisstigall.com and get signed up today. $30 for the whole year, $2.50 a month. But, Scott, it's yours, complimentary. We'll get your email. Yes, you're right. The theatrics, it was like, we need a big-time shift in the conversation right now. Why? Well, it could well be. Scott's onto something here from the post-millennial. These are the groups suspected of funding radical L.A. anti-ICE protests. Some left-wing activist groups are suspected of funding the anti-ICE protest turn riots over the weekend, and FBI Director Kash Patel has said that the law enforcement agency will be investigating all the funding as well as the groups that supported the organized efforts. And this story goes into some of the specifics. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, PSL, a Marxist group that's got ties to the Communist Party of China, as well as the SEIU and Chirla, as you mentioned. Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, said he's going to be looking into it. So a very astute observation. Was Padilla scared? Was that fear that the Democrats and the look under the hood here is finding the money trail of the anarchy? I think that's a very, very likely scenario, Scott. Great call. Let's go to North Carolina next. Talk to Brad. Brad, I'm glad you called. Good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all this morning?
Doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve. So, in light of the No Kings event, I was coming out of a church meeting last night, and the thought hit me: why not we just make this a little bit more exciting and spice it up a little bit? We'll keep it peaceful. We'll keep it friendly. So I called my wife. I said, hey, I need you to do me a favor and ride over to the local Burger King. And she sounded kind of puzzled. I said, I need at least 100 and 150 crowns. And I tell them it's for a birthday party. They said, okay, no problem. They gave me the crowns. Well, there's a counter-protest at 11:30 getting together here in our local town because there's going to be a meeting at 12 o'clock on our town square for the No Kings Day. But I'm going to pass out Burger King crowns, and everybody in this whole town is going to be a king on Burger King on No Kings Day.
Did you really get that many crowns from the Burger King people? Really?
Absolutely.
You're going to pass them out?
I told them it was for a birthday party.
Okay. Brad, listen, if you get me some photos, I'm going to put those up on the Salem News Channel and on my social media. Please, will you send me photos of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I need pictures. That is too good. Brilliant. I love that. Absolutely. Mock the heck out of it. Brad, brilliant stuff. Good man. Thank you so much. Telephone number 855-STIGAL. Well, you're clever out there this morning. This is the Stigall Show. Quick break. Everybody talking about the MAHA movement. Make America Healthy Again. Balance of Nature says, welcome to the party. They've been working hard producing a vibrant nutritional supplement second to none for many, many years before it became fashionable. So many other people use chemicals and additives for their supplements, but Balance of Nature is made solely from whole food ingredients. And while other methods sacrifice nutritional quality for the sake of profits and volume, Balance of Nature, they use an advanced cold process, a vacuum cold process. It includes freeze-drying their fruits and vegetables into a fine powder, and so that allows them to retain as much nutritional value as possible. And they don't cut corners, for volume or other things, as maybe some other supplements do. Balance of Nature packs a real nutritional punch, and that's the whole reason to take Balance of Nature. Get the most nutrition for the sake of your good health. And if you use my name, Chris, as your promo code right now, you'll save 35% off your order, and they're even going to ship it to you for free. Plus, a money-back guarantee if you're not happy. Call them, 800-2468-751. Use the discount code Chris. Once again, don't forget the discount code Chris for that big 35% off savings plus free shipping. Order online, balanceofnature.com. Excellence in dentistry. That's what you're going to get at Williamsburg Dental. My friend Bob Spinato is back on the phone. He's in Broomall, just off the Blue Route. And with 2 new associates, now you can expand and offer more hours, maybe evening hours, possibly weekends, Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that I told them from early on when they started with me was the value of not only their own time, but other people's times. And they run on a similar schedule that I do. If you've got a 1 o'clock appointment, you're in their chair at 1 o'clock. And it's something that across the board at Williamsburg Dental, we really pride ourselves on, whether it's an appointment with the hygienist or whether it's an appointment with one of our doctors. The other thing is we now have some expanded hours in the evenings, and even there's some discussion about opening again on some Saturdays for for services.
Yeah, but not you. You're fishing. You're not kidding anybody. It's not you going to be working on Saturday. Come on, Stu.
Well, I'm in my 33rd year, and it should be the young guns.
That's right. You've earned it. You've earned it.
I feel like I have. Thank you.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Well, it's the kickoff to No Kings Weekend. Happy No Kings Weekend, ladies and gentlemen. If you weren't with us in the last hour, Brad called and said, I hope he was sincere. I have no reason to doubt Brad. He said he went to the Burger King and he asked for some of those crowns that they hand out at Burger King, and he said he's going to pass them out on the courthouse steps in his community, and they're going to have a or I guess an anti No Kings rally or whatever. I love the whole deal. Just mockery. That's what you have to do with these people. Straight up mock them. And I welcome you in on the Salem News Channel, or whether you're listening on a great Stigall affiliate, wherever you happen to be on this great radio station you're listening to. Thank you so much for choosing us, and the podcast as well as the Harumph Society 3 times a week. Today I got a new edition coming out, and you want to stay with me on the Harumph Society because that's where I am even when I can't be here. Even if I take a couple of days off, I generally never leave the Harumph Society, and it's on sale for Father's Day this week, just $30 for the whole year, $2.50 a month, but that's only through Father's Day. So you can get that at chrisstigall.com if you'd like. Those of you who are helping us with the Angel Tree campaign that have given $1,000 or more, I'm making you honorary members for life. I'll talk about that in more detail in just a minute. But as for this No Kings Weekend thing, Trump was asked about it yesterday. Here's what he said. 2475. We were just talking about it there, Paulie. Go ahead.
No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What are they going? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
It's also Open Line Friday at 855-STIGALL if you want to get in here. Joshua's in Texas. And Joshua, I'm glad you called. Thanks a lot for hanging through the break. Welcome to Open Line Friday. Hello. Joshua there? Good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I apologize. I just went into work. I work in the city, so it's been complicated. How are you doing today?
Oh, that's all right. I appreciate you hanging on. Sorry you had to wait. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Oh, so, my whole family's been Democrat their whole life, and I never really understood it, and I'm a conservative. And I'm trying to talk to people about how, Trump's actually for this country. He's helping with taxes, he's helping with security, he's helping with safety. I used to be in the National Guard. So the whole Padilla said, oh, you can't bring military. Gavin Newsom said, we can't I can control the National Guard. No, that's the commander-in-chief's specific job. I don't understand the lunacy,
Yeah. Do you think that I asked this rhetorically, the anarchy in the streets, as well as now with Israel and what was clearly going to be an escalation there with Iran, sincerely, I ask rhetorically to anyone listening, who would you rather see driving right now at this time in history? Who would you rather see in the White House? Sincere question.
Yeah, Trump, heartbeat. That's not even a second thought. I know we're safe.
Yeah. Listen, Josh, first of all, thanks for your service in the National Guard. I'm so glad that you listened down there in Texas. I know you got to get to work, but thank you for keep working on them. And by the way, I think the Democrats are going to help your family in time make the right decision. Trump continues to bring Democrats in. Mark Weaver is a dear friend of this show. He is a constitutional scholar. He practices law still. He is a Department of Justice spokesperson in his past line of work. He's an author of a great book called A Wordsmith's Work. If you want to know how to communicate in a masterful way, this is the book for you, A Wordsmith's Work. Mr. Weaver, good morning to you.
Good morning. Happy No Kings. Is the solemn No Kings? What's the appropriate greeting? I meant to get you a card, by the way, so I forgot. You'll
it creeps up on us. It does.
When I first heard No King, I either thought it was somebody playing Go Fish. Got any kings? No kings. Go fish. Or I thought only drag queens are allowed to participate, not any kings. But anyway, no kings. Happy No Kings.
The rules are so confusing. You know, you heard from Josh there, a former National Guardsman, and we brought you in for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's some back and forth as usual. A judge came in and said Trump can't have control of California's National Guard for the L.A. riots. And then the Ninth Circuit actually swept in yesterday and issued a stay and said that Trump can. Where do you come down? And by the way, I love that the Democrats are now using posse comitatus. They can't. Most of them couldn't even explain what that is, but they're throwing it around like they know what it means. If you want to explain it, go ahead. But anyway, where do you stand on this whole Trump versus Newsom and the National Guard thing?
Well, posse comitatus is a real theory of law where the military is not supposed to be routinely used to enforce domestic law enforcement. The Democrats ought to be familiar with it because it was put forward by Democrats in the post-Civil War South to stop Ulysses Grant's administration from allowing black voters and Republicans to vote. And they had to bring in the military. You may recall they had to bring in American Army soldiers to protect the rights of newly freed slaves to vote. So, listen, I think when the Ninth Circuit comes in on Trump's side, that's saying something. Ninth Circuit's pretty liberal circuit. I don't think there's any question to the extent there's any federal resources in L.A. that you can use the military to defend them. But there's also other aspects of federal law that allows the president to call up the state National Guard or to use the military if federal laws are not being enforced. We saw this with President Eisenhower back in the South, in this case in the 1950s, when some of the Democrat racists in the South would not allow little black children to go to public schools. And the U.S. Army had to come in to make sure federal law was being enforced. I'm surprised the Democrats continue to cite this sort of these laws on their side when really the laws are not on their side.
So, to be clear, if there is chaos and anarchy in the streets, the President of the United States, in your view, has the ability to deploy a National Guard unit or units to help maintain control if it's completely out of hand. There's no constitutional anonymity about that in your view?
I don't think so, particularly when it's all stemming from a simple enforcement of the laws. Remember, these are being sparked because ICE agents are doing what ICE agents do, carrying out arrest warrants from judges and arresting people who are supposed to be arrested. And so as a result, yes, I think that both the president can call up the National Guard, as they did in L.A. in 1992 during the riots, and I think they can use the military when appropriate to be able to make sure that federal law is being enforced as President Eisenhower did in the 1950s.
I'll talk more specifically about this more on Padilla in a minute, but very broadly, the Democrats think they've got a thing here. They think if they can create enough street theater that Trump is a king and a despot and he's trying to take over the country and make the people fear him. The public doesn't feel that way. He overwhelmingly won an election, in my view, 3 times on the promise of locking down the border and deporting illegal aliens. So when he comes into communities and said, you sanctuary city mayors and governors, we're going to deal with you, and they're all threatening, oh yeah, arrest me, go ahead and arrest me. Where do you think, just as a communications expert, as well as a matter of law, where do you think the American people, how's that going to end, do you think, when it's all said and done? The Democrats saying, we're a sanctuary and we'll harbor and protect illegals versus Trump saying, better not, or you're in violation of federal law.
Yeah, the American people are largely on Trump's side, even independents. Republicans are, of course, and Democrats are against, but independents, I think, are coming down on Trump's side on this one. The federal law needs to be enforced. That's what President Trump is doing. And this election was largely about immigration. It was probably the biggest issue discussed during the election. People chose Donald Trump. So I think when we heard him, you played that clip of him about, he was asked whether he's a king or not. In his own unique way, he explained separation of powers, right? Yes. What he essentially said was, a king doesn't need to rely on Congress, or a king doesn't have to show up and make arguments in court, but he's doing both. And that is the core of our republic, which is we share power here in America. Of course, we have no kings.
And briefly, and you've been good enough to hang around for another segment, and I appreciate you, Mark, but with about 20 seconds or so, Kristi Noem and people like Kash Patel going into these major American cities, there is no legal standing in your question that they have every reason to be there and to crack down on this stuff.
Yeah, Article 2 of the Constitution allows the executive branch to enforce federal law. That's what they're doing. And nobody, not even state officials, can get in their way.
Mark Weaver is a brilliant, brilliant attorney and our great friend, and we're going to hold him over for another segment because I've got some more of his beautiful brain to pick in just a minute. I want to tell you, though, quickly, I thank you so very, very much for what you have done in helping the Angel Tree Camp campaign. We have been knocking it out of the park thanks to your generosity. We're getting... Look, 455 kids is the goal, all right? We wanted to send 455 kids to a summer camp this year for maybe the first time in their lives. These are kids of incarcerated parents through no fault of their own, having a really tough go of it. This could be their one opportunity to get out there and get some horseback riding, some swimming, some fresh air, some fun, and most importantly, a gospel-centered message all week long. And because of you, and because you have come through in such an unbelievable way, do you realize we're just 30 kids away? I got to hit 30 kids. We need, each kid takes $200 to get them to camp for a week. Now, that is a great savings, frankly. What the Angel Tree Camp can do with $200, that's like bleeding a turnip. This is not a money-making endeavor. This is a ministry. Can you help today? Give to the Angel Tree Camp campaign. Help me get these last 30 kids to camp. Our goal was 455. We're almost there. ChrisStigall.com. Click on the Angel Tree Camp banner, would you please, or call 888-206-2794. With former DOJ spokesperson, constitutional attorney, and author of a wordsmith's work, Mark Weaver. Mark, I am really intrigued by some governors, like Kehoe in Missouri, saying in advance, we're going to get out in front of this stuff, and we're deploying the National Guard now. You're seeing local elected leaders, mayors of cities like Kansas City, saying, what's this? Getting uppity. You can almost sense that Democrats don't like that Trump and other Republicans are out in front of this time. Is that your sense of it?
Yeah, they're afraid that law enforcement may spoil what you called, I think aptly, street theater. Listen, the First Amendment allows people to protest and speak out, but so much of what we're seeing is so far beyond that. These are not protests in many cases. These are riots. Police officers are being targeted. I am sad to predict that by this time tomorrow, or maybe by this time Sunday, dozens, if not hundreds, of police officers and National Guard people will be injured by flying rocks, frozen water bottles, pepper spray, lasers shined in the eyes. That's what's coming this weekend for this so-called No Kings. And it's not right. And so good on those local officials and state officials who are taking precautions. Good on some of the people like Governor Ron DeSantis and others who've called out that their people better be very careful to not violate the law. And here's hoping that the Trump Justice Department will use its federal RICO powers to prosecute anybody who is helping to fund or provide equipment for, not for protest, which is legal, but for rioting, which is, of course, illegal.
That was my next question. A lot of this audience very, very interested in, as we all should be, who's the money behind this? And we believe there is big organized money behind this, Mark. Pretty critical that DOJ find those people quickly and call them out and prosecute.
Yeah, they arrested somebody who was handing out brand new, sort of very expensive face shields to allow rioters to confront and attack police officers and withstand the less than lethal force that police officers use. I've seen some reporting that the Barbara Streisand Foundation is behind this, as well as some of the same normal folks on the left, George Soros and others, funding Indivisible, which is, in my view, in many cases, a racketeer influence corrupt network allowing people to break the law and vandalize and assault police officers, shut down traffic. All of these things are illegal. And when you help other people do illegal things, that's a conspiracy.
This guy Padilla, who I'd never heard of really, I don't even know. I mean, I know he's a United States Senator, but storming into a cabinet secretary's press conference, whether you're a United States Senator or you're Mark Weaver and Chris Stigall, you can't do it. It's not defensible, even if you're a United States Senator, and he thinks that's a big deal, as though that makes him special. Ironically, as BK here on the staff said moments ago to me during a break, he said, so the No Kings party is trying to storm in to a cabinet secretary's conference like he's special, like he's a king, which I thought was a great point, actually.
Yes, he felt very entitled and privileged. You could just tell by watching that clip. To be sure, Congress has oversight authority of the executive branch, but it's not carried out by any individual member of Congress. It's carried out through the congressional process, which is controlled by committees and by the votes of the House and the Senate. No individual member has a right to break into an ICE facility or attempt to do so, as we saw in New Jersey, where a member of Congress has now been indicted for that, or to storm into the press conference of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, who I'm sure has numerous death threats and who federal agents are supposed to be protecting. And so he's going to claim this is oversight. He's going to claim this is doing his job. But really, he's looking for a moment he can put up on social media so that he can raise money, and maybe his name will be mentioned in the list of people who will run for president on the Democrat side.
Mark, with about 30 seconds, I just get your reaction to the breaking news overnight this morning, Israel's strike on Iran. Where do you stand on that? How do you think that's going to shake out?
Yeah, Israel is our greatest ally in the Middle East. It deserves the ability to protect itself. Let's remember, Iran only has gotten this far because Barack Obama signed that nuclear Iranian deal, which gave them the ability to make nuclear weapons. So good on Israel, our ally, and I hope Americans will support and pray for our friends in Israel during this very difficult time.
It's very interesting. There are already a couple of senators out there with anti-Israel posts. Fetterman, of course, stridently defending Israel and their right to do this, Mark. I'm grateful for your time today. Mark Weaver, follow him on X, please, at Mark R. Weaver. A Wordsmith's Work is his book. Quick break, more in a minute on The Stigall Show. Judy, I'm glad you called. Thanks for waiting. Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning. The call that came from Brad with his stunning idea that he had called Burger King to order for a birthday party 150 paper crowns and receive them. Okay, the birthday party, tomorrow, June 14th, America's Flag Day, is also President Donald John Trump's birthday tomorrow. Yes.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. So you're saying that's the reason to have the big birthday party. Good point, Judy. I hadn't thought about that. Thank you. All of it's converging beautifully. Thank you for the point. That's right. So Trump's birthday, Flag Day, the military parade, no King's Day. Yeah. It's something special. And by the way, throw in the hopper for good measure, Israel's strike in Iran. There's a lot happening. You know who's covering it too? And thank you, Judy. My great friend Josh Mann, a good man unto himself, both figuratively and also how you would describe his family. A good man. Good men. Josh, M-A-N-N, he is the managing editor for a publication you ought to start reading. If you don't bookmark it, go there. It's called The Lion. You can find it at readlion.com. Josh, good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning. You're a good man too, Chris.
Thank you so much. I am intrigued with what you guys at The Lion have managed to achieve here in short order. You got yourself a White House correspondent, which I think is fantastic, and Maggie's her name. And I thought it interesting that this week she got in the Oval Office and made news. You're one of the new media entries in the White House now, which is so cool. And she made news talking about this very thing Judy just called about, the big military parade coming up tomorrow.
That's right. In fact, she got two questions in, but the last question she asked the president if he had a message for any of America's adversaries, as we have this grand military parade on Saturday, and he did break some news. He said first, and uncontroversially, it's time to celebrate America for a change, and he made some points about America winning World War II and how Maggie and others would be speaking German and Japanese if it weren't for the United States of America, that the country's worth celebrating. But then he also gave a warning to anyone who wanted to disrupt or riot in D.C. as they are in L.A., and he said they would be met with heavy force, and the media really took off with that. But we're so proud of Maggie. It's a privilege to be in the White House to cover this presidential administration. Plenty of news to be covering, obviously.
Yeah, and the question is rooted in another point I wanted to make, Josh, which is because you're new media and, you're really a relatively new media entry, The Lion, out there, someone like Maggie would not have been granted access to a White House or an administration in previous administrations. I think that's what makes this administration so unique and, frankly, special and historic. Can you imagine this time in history with 3 network news anchors and, the Washington Post and the New York Times as our only source for information?
Yeah, it's incredible, really. I mean, what we've seen since COVID, and then with the coming out of all the censorship that was happening under the Biden administration, it's really incredible. It's an incredible opportunity for us. You know, we're almost 4 years old as a publication. We hold high journalism and news. We're a legitimate publication. We also have podcasts, and we do a lot of new media. But we're also bringing a different perspective. And so we're so grateful that this administration is welcoming that. And I'll just say some little inside information here. When we're working with the White House press team, they are not trying to line up a bunch of friendly, sort of Trump-friendly publications at all. In fact, they want to be sure that questions are solid, sometimes challenge, and things like that. And so I hope that no one misunderstands that this administration does want the press in there asking good and hard questions, and we're just really happy to be part of it.
That I can confirm that, by the way, and I'm thrilled to have just a small affiliation with the Lion myself. I love doing the work with you, and I love seeing you grow. But I can tell you, having interacted with this White House as well, they almost I don't know how else to put it. It almost offends them if you show up and sound like a lapdog asking sycophantic questions. They don't like it, and they've kind of communicated, listen, you may be a Trump voter or supportive of Trump or whatever, but don't come in and kiss up. Like, he's here to hit, so come on, let's go, bring it. And I know Maggie does, and I know the Lion does. Let me go to a story you guys, this is the kind of stuff that I don't think anybody else is writing about, quite frankly. This is at readlion.com right now. Widow of an Arkansas airport executive files wrongful death claim against the ATF, Joe Biden's alcohol, tobacco, firearms, for reckless shooting of her husband. A wrongful death suit against the Biden ATF. I don't know who's talking about. So here we are on No Kings weekend. I just found this story very ironic. Can you imagine if Trump's ATF was engaged in storming in a place and killing someone? Take it away and tell people the details of the story, if you would.
Yeah, it's such a tragic story. Brian Malowski was a gun enthusiast. He was an airport executive in or around Little Rock, Arkansas. And so he liked to buy and sell firearms. Well, if you do it as more than a hobby, you need a federal firearms license. But it was a little murky in terms of how many do you have to sell in order to need this firearms license. In any case, he got on the radar of the ATF for basically selling guns, too many guns, and they thought he should have a license. And so he was under investigation. They had a warrant to search his home and property, and instead of pulling him over on the side of the road or waiting till he got to the airport where he worked, which is a gun-free zone, and in spite of the fact that they felt he was not a flight risk, that it would be a no-resist arrest, they actually did a pre-dawn raid of his home, and within 60 seconds of arriving, knocking on the door, and then ramming in the door, they killed him. They shot him. It was 48 seconds after, actually. He lay on the floor, bleeding from 2 gunshot wounds to the head. According to the suit, he was not given life-saving treatment at the scene, or at least immediately, and he died 2 days later. Meanwhile, his widow was in the police cruiser for 3 hours, according to the suit.
Wow.
Unable to change her clothes, to really find out much information. And so in this lawsuit, the widow is seeking damages in what the attorneys argue was a completely unnecessary raid of this man.
You know, Josh, this is another one of those stories, much like I would throw in mandatory shots to keep your job, much like Catholic dads protesting at abortion clinics being raided in the middle of the night by Joe Biden's FBI. You know, it's ironic, isn't it, as we're going into No Kings weekend, that the Biden administration, I would say, leveraged more authoritarianism, using branches of government and executive offices to harass and, in this case, maybe even murder people in their attempt to, quote, enforce the law.
Yeah, you're right. It is interesting with these protests from the left, which are very astroturf, by the way. We're currently investigating this group behind No Kings, Indivisible, which basically are using Tea Party tactics to go after Trump. The people who founded that started it in 2016. They're very anti-Trump, but they've raised tons of money, including Soros money, to sort of fund these protests. But we saw the concerns about weaponization of the federal government during the last administration, especially in the last couple of years. And this very case got on Jim Jordan's radar, and a year ago he grilled the ATF director at the time for this raid and how it took place and why it happened. And in fact, the U.S. representative in Colorado, one of them, Lauren Boebert, told the Lion about this case. This is a reason the ATF should be abolished. And so she's had enough of this kind of federal overreach, and she's certainly concerned. But yeah, if you want to see authoritarianism, you need to turn back the page and look at the past couple of years and how the federal government responded.
That's exactly right. Josh Mann is with us. Again, the publication, if you don't know it, I hope you will read it because it's all great journalism at readlion.com. It's called The Lion. Josh, there are other stories that you guys write about, not just the world of politics and news, but also culture and education is very, very important at The Lion. And I found it fascinating that New York, the state of New York, is now spending, and there's got to be more than any other state, yes, $33,000 per public school pupil now?
That's right, the most of any state. You're exactly right. And so the real question is, well, maybe it's worth it. I mean, some people like to buy nice cars, right? Some people like nice things, but they're not getting a nice education. That, in fact, you look at reading and math scores, they're continuing to be low. Many children are below grade level in these things. And so they're not getting much bang for the buck, but prices.
I mean, Josh, what could parents, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what could parents do with $33,000? You're actually, I know you personally, so you're a homeschool dad. What could you do if the state gave you $33,000 for your kid's education every year?
Well, I could buy a lot more than a chicken coop, that's for sure. So much you could do. I mean, you give families 1/3 of that, and they can send their child to a private school. That would be an expensive one, but a Christian school there in New York State, for example, you could do so many things with that money. And certainly the taxpayers ought to be keeping more of their money and making these decisions themselves.
It's crazy. And one more just cultural story. I love that you wrote about it, and it's one we just hadn't touched on yet. Derek Carr of the NFL, quarterback, has walked away from a big payday, and he cited his faith as the reason. I've got about a minute here, Josh. Could you tell us about that story?
All he had to do was just play one more year. He didn't even have to play. He could have had a surgery and just sat on the sidelines and collected $30 million. But he's made almost $200 million, so he's got money, but still $30 million, and you just got to sit around. But he said, that's not fair to the Saints, and he's really content as a dad, as a Christian, to, in his view, just follow God into the next step of his life and leave the money on the table. I think that's really admirable.
It's so cool, and I'm so glad you wrote about that, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. These stories, and so many more like them, you can find at readlion.com. I hope that you'll go there. Josh runs the ship there, and it's always good stuff. Bookmark it if you want a source. People ask me all the time, where's a source for news I can trust? That's one of them, readlion.com. Now in the White House even. Josh, good to be with you, buddy. Come back and see us soon.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Let's go to some of the audio from yesterday while I've got some time. Kristi Noem responded on Martha McCallum's show to this stooge Padilla, this senator, storming into her press briefing in 2473. Take a listen to this.
And he said, if this is the way they treat a U.S. senator, you can only imagine how others are being treated in these deportation efforts. What would you say to that, Secretary?
Yeah. I think his statement is absolutely ridiculous. This man burst into a room, started advancing towards the podium, interrupting an opening statement, elevating his voice, shouting questions. People tried to stop him from interrupting the press conference. He refused and continued to lunge towards the podium, and that is when he was removed from the room. So the way that he acted was completely inappropriate. It wasn't becoming a U.S. senator or a public official, and perhaps he wanted the scene, and that's what he wanted. But I think the American people are sick of this kind of action. I think the American people are tired of this. They just want the truth, and they just want to know what's happening, and that's what we were trying to provide.
Meanwhile, 3 Democrat governors showed up on Capitol Hill, beclowning themselves, some of the stupidest of all of them. Big boy, the Shoney's big boy, J.B. Pritzker, whose brother dresses up like a girl now, mind you. And then there's Tampon Tim Walz, who puts tampon dispensers on boys' restrooms in Minnesota. And then there's Kathy Hochul, who probably had the worst of the day. She looks like a young girl who got into mom's makeup here, as Elise Stefanik just tears her to shreds. 2480. This was a clinic by Stefanik versus Hochul here. Listen.
Do you know who Sakir Khan is? You should, as the governor of New York State. Do you know?
Refresh my recollection.
He was an illegal migrant in New York. And do you know what crime he committed in addition to being here illegally?
No, I do not.
You do not. This was widely reported. He found a 15-year-old girl, threatened her with a metal pole, told her to get into the back seat of his car. He took her clothes off, and he violently raped her in Albany, New York. Do you know who Sebastian Zapita Khalil is?
I'm sure you'll tell me there's many cases, whether they're...
These are high-profile cases. Yes. New Yorkers know about them, and you don't. So let's talk about Sebastian Zapita Khalil. Do you know who that is?
I don't have the specific details at my disposal, no.
Well, this is an illegal migrant in New York because of your sanctuary state policies. Do you know what crime he committed?
I'm not familiar at this moment.
I bet you're going to be familiar when I remind you. He found a sleeping woman on the subway, lit her on fire, and burned her alive. This is in Kathy Hochul's New York. And as I'm sure you are aware, and I'll remind you, that ICE issued an order to detain this violent criminal, but that was rejected by New York officials due to sanctuary state laws. Now,
yeah, I mean, embarrassing. That's the governor. Some of the most vile, horrible, high-profile crimes, and she pretends not to know. She knows full well. And then there's the Shoney's big boy, 2479, equally embarrassed, or at least should be.
Mr. Governor, do you think that biological men should be able to use women's restrooms?
I'm not sure how this has to do with immigration.
It's just a yes or no question.
Why are you?
It's very easy to answer. Do you think that men should be using
doing fact finding? I'm sorry.
Do you think men should be allowed in women's restrooms?
I'm not sure why this has come to this issue.
You tweeted that as a protest against President Trump, everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today. Have you ever used the women's restroom?
Not that I can recall ever, sir.
You wanted everybody else to do it, but you didn't?
Yeah, okay.
Sir, I'm not sure why we're on a topic.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what this has to do. Yeah, here's what it has to do with it, fat boy. USOBs will not protect women and girls and citizens in your state. You let psychotic men pretend to be women, and you let illegals rape and murder people, your citizens. That's what it has to do with, you reprobates. More in a minute. Hey there, it's Chris from my good friends at Texas Bullion Exchange, the good people that tell you there is no reason to live with all of this angst and anxiety about the markets going up and the markets going down. Why don't you just do something that has helped people calm their nerves in volatile markets for years? Texas Bullion Exchange, real physical gold as part of your savings. That's what they do. It's not about getting rich quick, mind you. It's about helping protect what you've already earned. And if you join Texas Bullion Exchange's Principal Protection Program, you're going to get 3% bonus in silver on your entire gold portfolio. Now, this program protects the value of what you've earned. So when you put it into gold and then it's time to sell, you get back what you paid. Never less. In fact, usually it's more, but it's never less. And isn't that reassuring? This program protects the value of your gold. Take the pressure off. You and your loved ones can face the future with confidence when you put gold in your savings and claim your 3% in bonus silver when you do it. 855-839-2728 is their number. 855-837-2728. Or visit buytexasgold.com. Again, 855-839-2728 or buytexasgold.com. It's Texas Bullion Exchange. Experience, integrity, and value. Hey there, it's Chris Stigall. You know, this past summer, I went on a cruise with Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Mike Gallagher, my Salem radio colleagues, and I met so many listeners like you who have been on my PhD weight loss program journeys, and I decided for myself it was time to jump in. I wanted to give this Dr. Ashley everybody's been talking about call myself. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team customize plans for your body to make weight loss simple. And they provide 80% of your food at no additional cost. They treat your whole person. And so I've decided to join so many of you. Join Sebastian Gorka, join Mike Gallagher, and all the weight they've lost. I'd like to do it myself. I've decided to call up My PhD Weight Loss. I hope you'll join me. Maybe we can start this weight loss journey together. Reach out, get started. Tell them I sent you and said hi. I'd love to hear how you're doing at 864-664-1900. That's 864-664-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Don't forget to tell them Chris Stigall is going to start losing weight with you. Good morning and welcome in on a very, very busy Open Line Friday here on the Stigall Show. Glad to have you along as we look at Chicago, Illinois this morning, live. One of the cities that the No Kings protest is supposed to break out. But I think Benjamin Netanyahu has really screwed that up. I don't know what the media is going to do. What do? Do you cover Israel's strike on Iran? Or do you cover the little street theater the Democrats are trying to put on? Your call's at 855-STIGAL if you want to get in here. Love to hear from you today. You can follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. I do that as much as I really would rather not. I do. You can find all of that at chrisstigall.com, as well as my 3 times a week newsletter, The Harum Society. I got that coming out today, as a matter of fact, and it's on sale for Father's Day. Just as an aside, $30 for the whole year. I hope you go check it out at chrisstigall.com. It is a thrill to bring in Michael Watley once again, who's chair of the GOP. This is the guy that helped orchestrate one of the biggest successes in the last many, many years politically for the Republican Party in 2024. And aren't we glad you succeeded? Because sincerely, Chairman, when I think about the events that are occurring right now, the alternative sends chills down my spine. Sincerely, good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be on with you. And yeah, one of the things that President Trump has brought to the White House is seriousness and making sure that we have a president that the world knows is in control and America is going to be respected. And I think right now that is particularly important.
I am struck at the image of Democrats and the choices, the hills that they're choosing to die on in just the last weeks. Hamas, Iran. I mean, you got senators tweeting their support effectively for Iran, like chiding Israel for what they're doing this morning and last night. Men and women's spaces and sports, standing up, for failed public education. It just goes on and on, like they're on the wrong side of everything. I almost think, no disrespect to you, but it feels almost slam dunk what you're doing right now in opposition to them.
Yeah, look, the Democrats are absolutely right now unified, and people talk about party disarray, and they certainly don't have leadership other than Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Bernie Sanders and, others that are going to take them down a leftward path. But they're very unified in going down that leftward path. They're on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue. Right now, the Democratic Party stands firmly in the camp of open borders, inflationary spending, and a weak America.
Can I get your reaction to what's gone on here with Democrat Party leadership lately? I know you're the chair of the GOP. You're not the chair of the DNC, but you must be watching with some interest that your counterpart over there was caught in a conference call saying he really, really disliked the actions of the vice chairs, and then they ended up taking a vote to boot him. What's going on over there? You know a little bit about leading a party.
Well, look, as you said, they don't let me into that locker room. So, I'm very happy right now to be leading a party that is very focused on making sure that we're going to have a strong economy. We've got strong southern borders and northern border, and we're going to have, a strong standing in the world. Right now, as long as that party is going to fight on those hills, right, they're going to remain a party of open borders and inflationary spending in a weak America. They're not going to be able to get their act together, but they are certainly unified, and they are certainly going to have a ton of money going into the elections. I think that's a dangerous place, right? And so America, we need to make sure that the Republican Party continues to fight for the common sense agenda that President Trump laid out in this campaign in 2024 and is ruling right now, is bringing to the party and bringing to the White House. This is an agenda that the American people support. We need to make sure that we're fighting every single day for every family, for every community across this great country.
You said something very important, and I'll answer my own question. And I've talked a lot about this, Chairman Watley of the GOP, for joining us this morning. I appreciate it very, very much. At Chairman Watley on X, by the way, if you'd like to follow him and what he has to say. Never forget that these people are well-moneyed. They may look lunatic, and you may say, this doesn't make any sense. The American people don't want this. They didn't vote for this. They don't support this. They're out raising money. Sick, silly, crazy money. Family Walton money, Chairman Watley. So we ought not forget that. They've got gobs of dough.
They do, and we saw in this last election cycle, they outspent President Trump by over $1 billion in the course of that election cycle. Thank God we had a much better candidate who ran a much better race, and the American people decided that they wanted this country to go in a different direction because they got tired of us having a weak, open borders, inflationary country.
So to that, you were always looking ahead to midterms. Many people in the Republican Party, those who vote for Republicans, reach out to me. I think you've probably heard this too. There's always sort of a dissatisfaction that the Republican in Congress is not running as fast as Donald Trump. How do you answer that to folks?
Well, look, nobody runs as fast as President Trump. The fact is that the administration is going to lead on this agenda. We need Congress to do their job, right? It's very, very critical for us to pass the one big, beautiful bill. Very glad to see that the House moved very quickly on a rescissions package that the president sent up, and we're getting that done and sent over to the Senate. We need to get the Senate to pass the big, beautiful bill. But the fact is that for the first time, President Trump has a Congress that is fully committed to the America First agenda, to this common sense agenda that he ran on, and we're getting those bills done. The worst thing that we could see under any circumstances is to flip Congress back to Democrats like we did in 2018 and go right back down the trail of impeachments and hoaxes and investigations, which is why these midterms are going to be so critical for us.
Is it incumbent upon the Republicans in Congress to inspire now? Because Trump's going to do his best, but as you said, he's run and won. He's run 3 different elections. The man's done his part, and he'll try to help these Republicans. But if they don't give voters something to be excited about and rally around, that's on them.
No question about it. Look, when President George H.W. Bush famously said, read my lips, no new taxes, and then raise taxes, we saw the response from the American people. This is not just President Trump's agenda that we're working on right now. It's not just a Republican agenda. This is an American agenda. It is about having a strong economy, strong borders, and a strong standing in the world. That's what the American people are insisting on. It's what they voted on. That's what they have delivered the Republican Party to achieve, and we need to get that done.
What are you hearing, if you've been in conversations, are you hearing on Capitol Hill that this is going to happen, this big, beautiful bill, or will there be too much infighting inside the Republican Party to get it done?
They're going to get it done. They need to get it done. I think the fact is that this is the American agenda. The leadership in the Senate has done a fantastic job of getting all of President Trump's nominees through, getting that cabinet done over the Democratic opposition. Senator Thune and Barrasso and others are doing a really good job of kind of getting this bill moving. Nothing happens fast in the Senate. We're watching that old Saturday morning cartoon, Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill, play out in real time. But feel very good that the leadership is absolutely focused on delivering this, not just for President Trump, but for the American people.
The Supreme Court punted on, I watch Pennsylvania closely, as that's been kind of ground zero for me for a while now, and a lot of chicanery by Democrats in Pennsylvania. The Supreme Court decided not to weigh in on something that the RNC challenged, that is how ballots are counted in Pennsylvania. That's still a concern in places like Pennsylvania, a critical state.
Oh, it absolutely is. Look, I think that when we talk about election integrity, the first pillar of our program is making sure that we have the right rules of the road in place. The second is, of course, that we want to make sure that we're in the room anytime a vote is cast or counted. Pennsylvania is a place where we spent a significant amount of time, not just on the ground, but in the courtroom, making sure that we had the right rules of the road in place in Pennsylvania. It's absolutely critical for us as we go forward in this next election cycle, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that. We have to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat.
By the way, I think our neighbors in New Jersey are getting very, very close to maybe having another Republican governor. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an inflection point election for New Jersey. The fact is that the people there, have been suffering with high taxes and poor government service. The education is not where it needs to be. The roads are not where they need to be. The state ranks 49th out of 50 in terms of competitiveness around the country. And if you're trying to start a business in New Jersey right now, it is entirely too hard to be able to get that off the ground and take care of your family. We have a great candidate in Jack Ciattarelli, and he is ready to lead New Jersey and make a change.
Gubernatorially speaking, across the board, just kind of where do things stand? I know there are more Republican governors than Democrats at present. You feeling good about that coming up?
Yeah, look, we do. And obviously that's a state-by-state conversation. But the fact is that when Republicans listen to the voters, understand the issues that they care about, put solutions on the table, we're going to be in a really good position to win. We just have to continue to remember that this is all about every family and it's all about every community, and really, truly take our cues from the American people.
Yeah, I tell you, when you hear guys like DeSantis and Abbott saying, we're about law and order here, and you can defend yourself, and we stand by you to defend yourself, I think that's just wise. The work you did, sincerely, and I know you don't take the credit by yourself, it's Donald Trump, but the work you guys did to get 2024 to happen the way it did at this inflection point in history, boy, I can't thank you enough. Michael Watley, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Quick break. More in a minute. Axios reporting that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump have pulled off one of the great tricks of all time as part of Israel's preparation to strike Iran. Maria Medvin at Politico says this will go down in the history books if Axios reporting is true, and here's some of it. 2 Israeli officials claimed to Axios that Trump and his aides were only pretending publicly to oppose an Israeli attack in public, but they weren't expressing opposition in private. We had a clear U.S. green light, claimed one, to Axios. And this, again, flies in the face. All these people that were hysterical about Donald Trump's Middle East junket a few weeks ago, remember that? There were a lot of conservatives. I can't believe I think now it looks even smarter. Again, if true. The goal, they say, was to convince Iran that no attack was imminent and make sure Iranians on Israel's target list wouldn't move to new locations. In reality, Netanyahu's aides even briefed Israeli reporters that Trump had tried to put the brakes on Israeli strikes in a call on Monday, but in reality the call dealt with coordination ahead of the attack. So Trump and Netanyahu were publicly trying to telegraph to everybody that Trump was trying to pump the brakes, but really every time they talked, they were coordinating apparently what just went down last night. As one poster put it, and I kind of liked it. I shared it again on X today. They said satellite imagery shows us Netanyahu's testicular fortitude from space. Back in a minute. Live look in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the Penguin Cam there. Glad to have you along. If you were watching on the Salem News Channel, you can see those cute birds. That was always my favorite animal growing up as a kid, the penguin. Great looking shot there today. Thanks for watching on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for taking the app along with you. If you do, Salem News Channel app is free. Click Watch Live and you're off to the races. Easy to do. The Harumph Society coming out today. I do that 3 times a week. Constant breaking, busy news there. That's on sale through Sunday for Father's Day. If you have not taken advantage of that sale, you should. Many of you are. I hope that you will. 855 Stigall is the telephone number if you'd like to get in here on Open Line Friday. And a huge, huge, huge thanks to those of you who have jumped in and been such tremendous sponsors and friends to the Angel Tree Camp campaign that we have been running here at the show. I just wanted to take a minute to say, each of you that has helped pitch in the last few weeks, we are getting so very close now. Last I looked this morning as the show started, we were at 435 kids. And as I told you, we want to get to 455. So we were 20 kids away as I began this show this morning. Haven't looked at the total yet. If you have the ability this morning, I'm asking you for your help to do what was a pretty heavy lift when we started this campaign. If you're able to do this today, at-risk kids in bad neighborhoods, let's help try to influence their hearts and their lives for Christ. with a donation to Angel Tree Camp, that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving these kids from very, very troubled areas help through this ministry to experience for the first time the Word of God. A gospel-centered message in an outdoor camp, fun, horseback riding. Just listen to kids like Joseph who explain how special it is to attend this camp and how it's impacted someone like him with a mom or a dad in prison. Take a listen to this.
This is my second year. All the kids from my cabin last year are in the same cabin this year, so I know a bunch of kids. Camp is a good place to make friends, and, well, they can learn more about Jesus, and they can learn more about each other, and they can find similarities with each other. When you know there's more people like you, you don't feel left out.
You know, if your heart, if your life has been touched by the Holy Spirit, as mine has, you know the profound difference that has in your life. But for a lot of these kids, they've never had that experience because it's never been introduced to them. And the Angel Tree Camp exists to do just that. Introduce Christ to these kids who come from very tough circumstances through no fault of their own. Can you help me? Can you help them get these kids to a camp this summer? It's $200 for a week of camp for these kids. This is not some money-making endeavor. This is squeezing a turnip dry to get the biggest bang for your buck. $200 is what it takes to get one of these kids from one of these rougher neighborhoods to a camp this summer. Can you do it? If you give $1,000, I'm going to give you a complimentary for life. I'm going to make you a for life subscriber to the Harump Society for $1,000 to help me get there. Come on, help it. Help this campaign. Let's get it over the finish line today. Can we do it? I think we can. We're 20 away. I haven't checked the total yet, but I know this audience is coming through. If you can't do 200, fine. Do 5, do 10. But you can pick up the phone, and this is how we impact. This is how you, at home, can be the pushback to the stupid No Kings anarchy that we're watching. This is the kind of thing you can do to take active steps to be the hands and feet in Jesus and actually make a positive impact on the country. 888-206-2794. 888-206-2794. You can also go to my website, chrisstigall.com, and there's a banner right there. Click on the top of it. It says Make a Difference in the Life of a Prisoner's Kid. Click on that, and you can give that way. All right, let's push this thing home today. 888-206-2794. Thank you if you've already given. Thank you so much for the generosity of this audience. I knew you'd come through again this year. If you haven't, could you help me? Angel Tree Camp online, angeltree.org/Chris, linked at my website, or you can call 888-206-2794. All right, let's go to the audio. Trump issuing an executive order. Gavin Newsom just being slapped around by Team Trump. I just enjoy it. Trump talking about in a sort of a, there was a White House event, and he was taking some press questions, and it's so much fun. If you missed this earlier in the show, I laughed and laughed and laughed. I posted this yesterday on social media when he was asked about the No Kings weekend. Take a listen to this, 2475 again.
No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What are they going? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
Then he took on the executive order of wiping out this stupid notion Californians won't be allowed. You guys in California that listen to this show, I don't know how you stand living in a place that tells you what you will or won't drive. But Gavin Newsom and Democrats are trying to tell Californians that they have a shelf life for their gas-powered vehicle, and they won't be able to buy them or drive them soon thereafter. Trump is taking that head on in 2477 here. Take a listen.
But in a few moments, I'll sign 3 pieces of legislation that will kill, totally kill. You can't do anything about it. They can't take us to court. They can't do any of the things they can do with the executive orders. And it's permanent. I'll sign 3 pieces of legislation that will kill the California mandates forever, and they're never coming back. Now, the auto companies are the most happy because now they're going to be designing and building one auto. It will be much cheaper. It's a much less expensive.
And he's also, interestingly, and a lot of people are pointing to Trump softening on some of his stances regarding illegal immigration with this executive order in 2478. Take a listen to this.
What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out, and you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers, and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
So, this is driven by a wing that the Wall Street Journal, I told you about them earlier in the week, is the immigration crackdown already showing up in the labor market. Employment growth in industries that rely heavily on unauthorized workers has slowed. There has been a large decline in the foreign-born labor force since March, and recent immigrants appear more reluctant to take part in Labor Department's monthly survey of households. Still, there is no definitive measure of the unauthorized workforce, and the data that does can be volatile and difficult to parse. Listen. The answer to this is not necessarily to round everyone up working in hotels and farms. That's not the answer, but there has to be a serious discussion about how to give these people legal recourse to operate here, but also know who the hell they are. It is still, and I still stand by this, I don't want to be unreasonable. And yes, it is true. It is true. There's no denying it is true that there are people picking crops, as the Democrats love to say, and there are people doing jobs that Americans won't do. That is true. And how you solve that, I don't know. And if every single illegal alien was swept out of this country today, no matter who they are, if they just vanished today, yes, it is 100% true and extremely problematic for this country that so much of our business is built on the backs of people who are not here legally and don't report and are, collecting a check maybe under the table and sending a lot of it back home to Mexico, which is why the woman running Mexico is so hell-bent on fighting with us over this issue, because this is a huge part of the Mexican economy and many other South American countries for that matter. So can we get a path to legal citizenship? And again, it's not an amnesty thing. That's not what I'm talking about. Work visas, work permits. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to have the answer, but I know that right now we cannot have an underground subculture of people propping up our economy that we exploit like we're some sort of Chinese dictators. I say again for a third day in a row, that's disgusting. I don't feel great knowing that I can enjoy my groceries and sit around on the weekend or the 4th of July picnic and enjoy my produce at an affordable rate because some farmer somewhere was paying a guy pennies on the dollar to do the work that none of my fellow Americans would do. That feels gross. I don't know about you, but I feel uncomfortable with that arrangement. So it's got to be fixed. Don't have to be unreasonable and heavy-handed with everybody, but it's got to be fixed. And it's not, again, I don't put this on the backs of people who came to the country to earn a living. And yes, there are millions of people that did it, but it's still a matter of them being here illegally, and that is a problem. Down in Florida, did you hear this, Sheriff Wayne Ivey? Not screwing around, 2486. Remember DeSantis said a couple days ago, you jump up and down on one of my residents' cars, they can floor it and mow you down without penalty, effectively. Wayne Ivey, the sheriff, similar. Take a listen.
I'm going to break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order.
Toughness, resolve, leadership. The country is craving it, and they reward guys like Sheriff Ivey there. Harumph, harumph, harumph. All right, let's go to Bibi Netanyahu and his statement on the Israeli strike on Iran, taking out 3 key leaders. Last night, this will continue. It will be sustained. And President Trump has issued some recent statements I'm going to read you in just a minute. But here's what Netanyahu said after the strike last night, 24:93.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of time for Islamists. Sorry. I know that might not be the... There's a wing of conservatives out there that seem rather empathetic or something with Iran, and I'm not sure what that is, but here's what I know about Iran. If given the opportunity, they would kill every last one of you and me. They don't like people that are not Islamists. You do understand that, right? Islamists are supremacists. For as much as the left loves to talk about white supremacy and nationalism and all that, you know the very, very worst of it? You know who clings to it more than anybody else? The Iranian government. Not its people. There is a difference. And let me just say again, not all Muslims. For all you emotional idiots that don't understand what I'm saying, let me just say it again very plainly. Islamism, Islamo-supremacy, is what governs the Palestinian people. It's what governs the Iranian people. Their leadership are bad people. And as far as I'm concerned, let's wipe them out before they wipe us out. That's the way I feel about it. Now, if Israel's going to do the heavy lifting, salute. I totally support it. Doesn't bother me even a little bit. Now, I know Democrats are going to take the position, and by the way, some who call themselves Republicans are going to take the position that we ought not be supportive of Israel. Trump doesn't see it that way. Trump said this morning, quote, "We, of course, support Israel, obviously, and support it like nobody ever has supported it. Iran should have listened to me when I said, I gave them, I gave them a 60-day warning. Today is day 61. This is how you communicate in a tough world. I gave you 60 days. Today is day 61. Let her rip, BB. Good. Earlier this morning, he said, I gave Iran a chance, and chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest words, just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. He said certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They're dead now, and it will only get worse. There's already been great death and destruction, but there's still time to make this slaughter within the next already planned attacks even more brutal. There's a chance to make it come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late. Doesn't bother me. Now, leftists are going to be deeply bothered because they had this big No Kings party scheduled this weekend, and nobody's going to be talking about it if BB and Trump continue to launch on Iran. So, you No Kings people, you should cheer for Iran to lay down their nuclear arms right now if you want all the proper protest attention that you're angling to get this weekend. Anyway, folks, be safe out there. If you are in one of the major metropolitan cities in which we broadcast, protect yourselves. Just steer clear of the lunatics. Don't engage them. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. God bless you. Say your prayers. Everything's going to be just fine. We'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.